Hello everyone, it's Kay here, and I'm here today because I've been asked to do a tutorial on a beaded bauble, which I will attempt to get right. But before I get started, the pattern I've used is copyrighted, and what it says on the copyright is that I'm not allowed to share the pattern in its paper form or any other form or photographs in that regard. I can make the bauble as I understand it, but I can't share the pattern with you. So I have made amendments to the pattern, and I want it very, very clearly understood that the pattern can be purchased from this site, and it is a design by Caron. You see her email there, but I am not sharing the fullness of the pattern with you. I have amended it. I can't stress that highly enough. And if you see the copyright bit, it says about the actual design, the paper design, that you don't share it, you don't sell it on, to protect Karen's rights, and I'm all for that. I don't believe someone's hard work should be used inappropriately. However, it doesn't say anything about actually beading the bauble to help people get the design right. So we're going to go ahead with that. So thank you for understanding. It is, as I say, a copyrighted paper pattern. But I know there are people like myself who learn better from seeing something done than they do from trying to follow a pattern. And I have to stress again that I have made some amendments to the original just to suit my own purposes, and I've actually altered the beads slightly to accommodate how I like the bauble to come out. So without further ado, we'll get started. I'll try and do it in stages, and then I'm hoping that the film crew will be able to edit if it needs it and splice it all together. Failing that, I might just do it over a couple of videos rather than just one. So on my mat are the things initially that you need, and it is a 60mm Christmas bauble of any colour you like, and then you select 2 lots of 11/0 seed beads to work with. Now what I've used here is a kind of cylinder 11/0 and a round 11/0, but you can use whatever is in your stash. I've got some Super Duo in this lovely green colour, which is in keeping with the colours that I hope to put forward on the bauble, and that is all you need in the first instance. And we start the pattern by picking up, I'm going to call the silver ones A and the green ones B, or I might just talk in silver and green. It depends how it comes out. And what you need to do is decide which you want as your prominent colour at the outset. And then that said, my prominent is the green, my contrast is the silver. I'm going to pick up 1A and 5B onto my bead, onto my needle, 4 and 5, and repeat that until I have 42 beads on my needle. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then the A bead or the contrast. Slide it down onto your thread, leave a nice little tail because you will want to stitch it in. If you prefer, before you start all of this, you can use a stopper bead. It just really does depend on how you like to do things. I'm quite comfortable with holding the tail and moving forward from then. So I'm going to pick up another 5 of the green, 5 and 1 of the contrast, until I've got my 42 beads on the strand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a silver or an A. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and a silver. It is nice to use a better quality of seed bead if you have them, because cheaper seed beads tend to be a little irregular in their sizing and they will affect the overall outcome of your pattern. But you know, if you're just practicing and you want to try it out in the first instance, then go with it, whatever you've got in your stash. So that's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, one more of 5 and 1. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and 1 silver. I don't need that last silver because I started with a silver. You don't need to, you need to make sure you've got that sequence of beads, an A and 5B right the way through. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 1 and 2. So that's my 42 beads on the strand. Okay, you then need to thread your thread right up through the beads that you have put onto the thread, and you simply are making at this stage a circle like this. So you bring your needle through again. Now some people will only do that for the first section. I like to reinforce because this is the bit that is going to hold the whole of the decorative beadwork in place at the top of the bauble. So as you can see, I'm going through and I'm going to meet the thread where it comes out at the other end, and then I'm going to tie the surgeon's knot, which is a double through the loop, 1 and 2, oops, and then I'm going to pull that together and knot that in place. And there you have your sturdy circle ready to start work properly. I'm now going to go on through the first 5 of the seed beads and that contrast bead, and I'm going to come out on that side of the bead to move forward. And whether you're left-handed or right-handed, once you start to work in a given direction, then you need to follow that direction all the way through. If you don't, it's not going to sit very nicely and you'll lose track of where you are with your beadwork. So the next thing we do, oops, this constitutes row 2, is we're going to pick up 3 of the B colour, 1 of the A colour, and 3 of the B colour. So this is what you have on your needle, and you forget the 5 beads that you have between each of your contrast beads, and you go directly into that next bead like so, and that then gives you this lovely little cuff on the outside of the circle, which is going to grow as you go round. And again, 1, 2 and 3 of the B, and 1 of the silver, and 3 of your other colour, and we're going to take that through the next contrast bead like so. So you're actually making a lovely little looped effect going all the way around, and you do that until you meet up with the other side, and then we do what's commonly known as step up into the next circle. So there's the 3 and 3. I've come out of this contrast bead and I'm going right across to the other contrast bead. 1, 2, 3, the contrast, 1, 2, 3. There are the 6 beads again on the needle, and we go from that bead straight across to the other, or the very next contrast bead in your circle, like so. Keep the tail out of the way so you know where you're going, but this is how your work should look as you're progressing. So I'm going to do that and meet up with the other, with the first loop that I made. 1, 2, 3, and the contrast, 1, 2, 3, and the contrast. Oh, sorry, no. 6 beads on your needle, into the next contrast bead. Around you go. 1, 2, 3, the contrast, 1, 2, and 3. There are the 6 beads, and I'm going through to where I met my thread, and I've got one more loop to do. Keep the tail back away from the main part of your work. 1, 2, 3, and the contrast, 1, 2, and 3, and I'm going to meet up with where my first loop started, and I'm going to go through that contrast bead. So when you look at your work, what you're left with is that. Now these are not tight because you need to be able to add beads to it, but you see my thread is coming out of the contrast bead. So the next row and the stepping up that you need to do at this point is to go through those 3 beads and come out at the contrast bead at the top, like so. I just hope this is clear enough for you. And in the next row you add 4 beads, and you do exactly the same thing. So that's 4 contrast beads. If I do it this time, 2, 3, and 4, 1 silver bead, and 4 of your main beads. I'm calling them all sorts of names, I do apologise, but I will show what I've got on the needle there. So there, now we have 4, the lighter bead or the contrast bead, and 4 beads, and we go now through the top silver bead or contrast bead again, so that you are forming another round in the circle, just like this. Okay, and you again do that all around that circle, and each time you come to where you started on the next layer, you need to then do that step up to take you to the middle bead in the top row. I hope that's making sense. I can't make it any clearer because literally this is all there is to it at this point. So I've got my sorry, 6, not done, no, sorry, this is 4, this is the third row now, so it's 4 beads, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got now 9 beads on my needle, and I'm going into that top bead on the outer loop and bringing it round. And as you go along, you will see exactly where you have to go by virtue of following the silver or contrast bead, and you do that each time until you get around to where you started on that row. And again, it's imperative to then come out of your lower base, go up through the next lot of beads in the first petal and come out of your contrast bead at the top. And you do that until you have made several rounds. I'm going to show you in one that I've prepared earlier so that you get the gist of what I'm trying to achieve here. This is how it looks. So to continue, you've done your 4 and then the contrast either side. You then go on to do the 6 and you do a contrast either side. You then do an 8 either side of your contrast bead. So that's 16 beads in your loop. And then you go up to the final row, if you're doing the bauble my way, and then you have 10 of your main beads and 1 contrast bead and 10 going around. And you, if you count up through the crossovers here, you've got, if you count this one, 1, 2, 3, 4 crossover of beads, and then you exit through one of your contrast beads as you have on all the rounds that you've done. I'll try and get in as close as I can so that you can see this on the table or on the mat. Let's just bring it up a bit, I'm having to check here. So this is the centre circle right here, and then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 levels, and each circle is an increase of beads. Now in the original pattern you're increasing by 1 bead either side of the contrast. I didn't quite want to have anything that was that heavy, so what I ended up doing was, as I say, starting off with the 4, starting off with 3, no, starting off with 5, that's your main base, and then 3 either side, which is here, and your contrast bead, and then 4 on the next layer, and then by the time you go to the next layer you've got the 6 beads. If you count around the tip of my finger there, you'll see the 6 beads and the contrast bead, 8, and that's the 8 beads either side of the contrast bead, and then finally the 10, and you've still got that contrast bead in the centre of each of these loops. And if I put it now on the bauble, you will see how it starts to drape like so. And now this is where we are working from for the next round. So if you want to pause the video at this point and catch up, that would be a good thing to do. It takes approximately 3 hours of work to put one of these baubles together, and that's cutting out several stages from the original pattern, as I said, but it is well worth the effort that it requires to finish off the bauble. So I think what we'll do at this point is stop, and I will do a part 2 to get us ready for the next piece, and that then keeps it nice and easy rather than stopping and starting, and it will probably be a 3 series of video, but it makes it easier to do it that way and easier for me because I'm constantly checking out to make sure that I've told you the right sequence of beads, etc. But when you see it as it is here, you can almost work out what it is you need to be doing. So I'll love you and leave you and come back in a little while to go on to part 2. Thank you very much for your time as always. To novice beaders, please don't be put off. It really is a beautiful pattern to work with. I've worked with Caron's patterns a great deal, and you know, they are fluid. You can alter them if you need to. You can use bigger beads, smaller beads, alter it any way that your imagination can take it, and you know, it's worth trying something like this because the sense of achievement and completion when you finished it is just lovely. So I'll leave you there. Thank you for sharing this time with me, and I will put part 2 into place in a little while. Thank you very much. Bye bye for now.